Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Game Day here at Heavy Cardboard. Teach, play, and discuss medium and heavy strategy board games, war games 18xx. Today, solo day. I'm your host, Edward Euler. Happy to be joined, well, by y'all. Today, Archipelago, designed by Christoph Bollinger, I think is how you say it, and published by Ludically, and as well as Asmodee by default, I suppose. So welcome, everybody watching live around the world, as well as after the fact. All right, little solo action. Now, a couple of things before we get started. Number one is this is going to be a short scenario. Now, I already hear the complaints. I know. I figure this game isn't best as a solo game. Now, I've never played it multiplayer. I'm just going off of what I've read, but the fact that there is so much holding your opponents over a barrel and forcing them to do your bidding or pay you for the privilege, the solo game definitely feels like it's going to miss out on some of that, okay? And so I thought the best way to introduce the game would be through this short scenario. And then if there's demand and y'all enjoy it, then we'll play a medium scenario on the next time we stream it. I think that seems reasonable to me. So hopefully it's reasonable to y'all as well. Yeah, all right. So it's going to be a relatively quick stream just because it's going to be one of the short scenarios. And yeah, that's it. I think that's all I got. Oh, you know what? It's not. Right before we got started today. And I do mean like right before. Olivier, cheers. Thank you for the support. Oolong. And this felt like a, Caribbean-esque shirt, so that's what we went with today. All right. Yeah, so as chat is saying that solo is best for teaching the basics, we're not going to do a multiplayer stream of Archipelago until I can have people here in the studio. It doesn't make a lot of sense, to be honest with you, because we're just not going to do this remote. So that said, I'm not going to do the full teach on the front end. I'm going to give an overview, and then we'll go through it as we go through it. And I think that's what makes the most sense. Okay? All right, so without further ado, let's get into Archipelago. So there we go. That's it. All right, I'll go ahead and read a little intro, which I thought actually was pretty good. So here we go. Archipelago recounts the great age of discovery, an era of intensive exploration and colonization of the world by European explorers. The game covers the period from 1492, the discovery of the Antilles by Christopher Columbus, to 1797, which marks the colonization of Tahiti. Each player, us in this case, portrays an explorer and his team commissioned by a European nation to discover, colonize, and exploit islands. The mission is intended to be one of peace, to meet the needs of the local population while providing commercial return to the continent being Europe. The archipelago and its natives must be treated fairly or they will rebel, potentially leading to an all-out war of independence. A balance must be found between expansionism and humanism, between commercial goals and respect for local values, between knowledge sharing and unbridled industrialization. Such balance can only be achieved through each player's commitment to make the archipelago a happy and productive colony. If not, the reckless exploitation of the island's resources and their inhabitants will ultimately lead to chaos and revolt. To complicate matters, a separatist, now this is not, you know what, I'll read it, but in the solo game this doesn't apply. A separatist or a pacifist may hide among the players. One or the other will attempt to use their influence to tilt the balance away from equilibrium and towards their respective goal of chaos and uprising or absolute peace. Are you ready to take on your discovery mission to the archipelago? All right. And by the way, I also need to give credit to Randall. I've had his copy of the game for a couple of years now. So Randall, thank you for this. And also thanks to Khan, who has the solo expansion. And the solo expansion is that. That's it. It's basically a bunch of these. And there we go. All right. So that's the theme or the setting, if you will, of the game. All right. Now, what is it y'all are looking at? Well, this is going to be the tiles, the tile supply here, and the tiles we're going to be building out the area that we're going to be colonizing, the archipelago as well as water, et cetera, et cetera. We have the action disc for the action board, if you will, for the various actions that we're going to be able to take throughout the game. Then we have, we have various boards up here, which I'm just going to call collectively the Phase 3 area of the game. We'll get there. Then we have the evolution cards over here. We have my supply of various pieces that may come into play. And then we have our goal card or a scenario card over here. We have the evolution market as well over here. We have exploration tiles, which we're going to get some of these, but there's no need for us to have 18 of them, as it were. And then additional action markers that may come into play. Like I said, our personal supply of things. Then off board, we have all of the various resources over here. We have the bank, and we have town tiles, and so on and so forth, ports, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Then we have our player screen. Now, the player screen really doesn't come into play because solo, right? And in addition to that, though, it is a pretty decent player aid for a couple of things that are not readily apparent anywhere else. So whenever we take the taxes action, the amount of money we're going to be able to get from that. We have whenever we take the construction action, the cost for building these various things. And then finally, we have the actual order of play as it is, as you see there. Now, this is for the multiplayer game. The solo game, kind of adjust that and like order of play. It doesn't really come into play, obviously, because it's just us. So there you go, all right? But yeah, that's okay. It's okay, it's okay. So, all right. Joshua says, I didn't know there was a solo expansion. Might rescue it from the sale pile. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this, and I'm going to turn this a little bit. So the solo expansion is a series of these cards, okay? And they represent characters that you're going to play. So in this one, you can tell that it is a short scenario based on the short little clock marker up there, and here are all of the short scenario ones here. Then there are a handful of medium scenario ones. I think there's 27 total between all of them. And then I am making a huge mess over here, a moment. Then there are the long game scenarios over here as well. And on the back, it shows who represents da-da-da-da-da over there. So in addition to that, there are two other cards as well as in different languages. So here are the rules, okay? And I'll go over these briefly right there. That's basically the differences for the solo game. And then a little card that describes everything that is on there. And on the back side, we have like so. All right. Again, it's a very rough description, and the solo rules are lacking, let's be honest. But we will do, through the use of BGG, there has been help provided and best guess type things. So we have chosen, and by we I mean me, thanks to one of my patrons, and let me figure out who that was again. A moment. They actually gave their personal recommendations on what scenarios and everything. Oh, it was actually Krasimir, so who's in chat. Says this is short and interesting with Barbe Blue. All right, so Master Fisherman. So that's who we are playing. This is the starting stuff for us. So we start with that tile out there. And I just realized, did we freeze? Oh, here we go. Let's try that again. The starting tile out there, we start with one ship, we start with one colonist, and we start with $5. So there's the $5, and everything else is actually. And we start with 3 action markers as well. The end game trigger is going to be one of 2 things. If we are to succeed in this game, it is getting 15 fish resources in our supply. Okay, cool, good. And then provided that that is successful, then we go into here, which is how well did we do? Well, basically what this is saying is if it's 4 turns or less, we get the highest level, which is, from what I've heard, pretty difficult in every scenario, bordering on near impossible for these scenarios. Now, it's not impossible, but there's no chance. My goal is 4 or 5 turns to be able to succeed by getting 15 resources. We'll see how that goes. The bottom level is if it takes more than 5 turns, but the game does not end in rebellion. If the game ends in rebellion, we lose. Now, what is this? It is the number of evolution cards that we have purchased over the course of the game. Now, I'll explain that as to why that matters here in a little bit as we go. All right? All right. All right. So let's go over an outline of the various of the various phases of the game. And then honestly, we're just going to go ahead and get started. All right. Now, let me get my little player aid over here. In round 1, we skip 1 and we never do 2 and we skip 4. So in round 1, it's really 3, 5, 6. And then on subsequent rounds, it is 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? All right. So I'm going to skip disengagement. I'm not going to talk about order of play. We'll just go ahead and talk about population effects. All right? So what's going to happen, the very beginning of the game, is we're going to have to actually come up here and look at these boards up there. So what these boards represent in phase 3 is we're going to look at the various supply. This is our domestic board. This is our export board. And then this is going to be our population and rebellion board. And then finally our surplus worker board over here. And you'll notice that they have Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, and 4 on them. So we start with Roman numeral number 1 and we take a look at all of those resources. Now, at the beginning of the game, only the top left spot is filled with resources. However, as the game advances, theoretically at least, we're going to be placing resources. Whenever we place resources over here by selling resources, we're going to fill it the top leftmost, top leftmost, top leftmost, and continue on our way down, etc., etc. But you'll notice that each of these 6 resources in the game, we have fish, exotic fruit, we have cattle or beef or meat, then we have stone, we have wood, and then I cannot for the life of me remember what the black one is. I feel like it's sugar, but it's not. I cannot remember. Someone will correct me in chat. Anyway, in addition to what those resources are, you'll notice that there are symbols over here on the right-hand side. Those symbols represent the number of surplus workers. So in other words, that has to do with this. So wherever the lowest resource is, so if there were anywhere between 4 and 6 stone out here, the surplus worker would add 1 surplus worker to wherever it is. Pretty simple. If it has rebellion markers, however, next to it, you're going to advance the rebellion marker, which is the black meeple over here, up the track based on how many it says. Now, one of the triggers for the end of the game, and by triggers I mean you automatically lose, is if the rebellion marker ever surpasses the total number of population on the archipelago. So, the archipelago actually starts at 0 population. So if we get any rebellion before we get population, game's over before it really gets started. So keep that in mind. But that's what's going to, we're going to do that for this board. Then we're going to do that for this board. Notice that it starts empty, however. Then from there, and let me make sure I get this right, this being phase 3. Let me take a look. All right. So then in phase, for board 3, easier said than done, no, I got it right already. I actually already did it to where we're going to move the two various boards based on where these are. I apologize. So that is going to be phase 3, the population effects. Then we're going to go to phase 4, which is the balance of the archipelago. And basically what that means is we're going to take a look at this top card and we're going to resolve any top and bottom based on if it's kind of this beigeish gold background. If it's red, we're going to skip it. And the top part has to do with the domestic market. The bottom one has to do with the the export market as it is. I'll go over all of that in detail when we actually play the game, but as it is right now, not too worried about where things are right now. Then the meat of the game is going to be step 5, which is the actions. So you're going to do one of those 3 things each action. Play an action, which we start the game with a total of 3 of them, or use a character or progress card or evolution card, or use a market or a port. Pretty simple. Now, what are the various actions that are in this game? The actions are as you see them right here. Now, these are going to be for gathering resources, all of these, from fish to exotic fruits to wood to whatever the heck that is. That's iron, thank you. Stone, cattle. Easy enough there, right? In addition to that, there are a bunch of other spots that are there on the board as you can see them listed there. So we have construction. Now I should point out that all of these, so all of the resource gathering actions can be taken multiple times in a given round, as well as any of these can be taken multiple times throughout the round. But you'll notice that the reproduction, i.e. having babies, has specific 1 spot per player, meaning yellow could go there once, red could go there once. We're playing solo, so in other words, I could do that a maximum of once per round. Then for taxation, we could do it theoretically up to 3 times because you'll notice that there are multicolored spaces for our actions over there. And then finally, exploration, we can do it once and possibly 2 other times in addition to that. So what are the other available actions? Well, again, we have harvest, we have reproduction, we have taxation, we have exploration. Then we have recruiting workers as well. And then there are a couple of other places over here. So transactions, construction, and migration. So I'll go over these all in detail when we actually get started with the game, okay? All right. So phase 5, we're going to take actions. We have 3 action discs to start, so we'll be able to take a total of 3 of those actions. We may potentially be able to get additional actions if we have gone through all of the exploration tokens in a pile, which there are 8, 8, and finally 8, for a total of possibly 5 actions. But as I mentioned, given our goal, we're probably, hopefully, not going to make it through the first stack, which means we're probably only going to have 3 actions on a given turn there. Then after that, we are going to go into the evolution card purchase. And what that is these cards are going to flip over to their backside, and then they're going to be over here, and then we're going to have to purchase them, we're going to rotate them, so on and so forth. But we'll go into that as we get set up and do all of the things. Each round in the solo game, when you get to the evolution card purchase step, so phase 6, you must do 2 things. You must purchase a card or the game ends and you lose. if you cannot purchase a card. So what does that mean? You need cash, you need florins. We start the game because of our starter card with 5 florins. So we need to be able to buy a card every single turn. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to rotate these cards. We'll go into that as we actually get into the game as well. So, big picture, what is it we're trying to do? Well, we're going to go through the various actions, or the various phases, I should say, over here, with the hopes of collecting, as it is in this game, getting 15 fish resources. Very simple. That's our goal. And our goal is to do it in less than 4 rounds. I don't like our chances. I think if we succeed, I'll take that as a W. All right? But how do we do that? By taking actions, by exploring, putting out more tiles, harvesting these resources out here, as well as doing other things. Now, given that this is a short scenario, we are not going to see all the actions taken in this game, so keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is hopefully stream this a couple of times and go from there so that y'all can see everything, everything that the game has. So, with that said, honestly, I think we ought to just go ahead and get started at that point. So, the game ends if we get 15 fish resources. That's a positive one. The game ends if we cannot buy a card. We lose. Or if the rebellion is ever higher than, not equal to, but higher than the population over here of our archipelago. So those are the 3 ways the game will end. Our goal is to do so, get 15 resources, fish resources, as quickly as possible. All right? All right. So now, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit solo rules. All right. Choose a scenario card. Done. Okay. So here we go. There's no turn 0. So turn 0 is a setup. This is very, very, a big point of contention with the, in a hole in the solo rules. There's no turn 0, so it's going to leave a lot of questions that we're going to use our best guess on for these things. Use the starting conditions indicated on the scenario card. So I'll just go ahead and put that right there. So we start with that tile. We start with a ship on that tile. We start with the colonists. Now, in step 0 in the multiplayer game, we're actually putting out tiles. Well, we're not doing that, and colonists can't just swim. So therefore, as soon as we explore, we're going to want to do that very, very quickly. We'll be able to put the colonists on dry land. Okay? All right. Yes, Krasimir, I will do that. All right. So, skip turn 0. Got it. Okay. Use the 4-player action wheel. Action wheel being this guy. We know it's 4 players because there's no 5th player shown here. So, okay. Done. Skip phase 2, order of play, because it's solo. All right. During exploration, if the new region touches the scenario starting region, what does that mean? It means if we put a tile here, 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 or here, normally you have to have it touch 2 tiles. Well, in the solo game, it says it does not have to be adjacent to a second region. Otherwise, it'd be impossible to lay any tiles. All right. During phase 6, again, you must purchase a card and rotate 2 cards. If you cannot, game ends. If the end of game condition is reached, meaning the 15 fish resources during phase 6, still complete the phase. And then if you run out, now this one I'm a little unclear about. If you run out of units in your color, you can use other colors, but you're supposed to be piece limited. So I thought that was interesting. Okay. So, and you notice the warning. Some scenarios start with 0 citizens. Now we start with 1 theoretically, but it's not online, or on land, so I would argue we start with 0, kind of. So, keep that in mind. All right? So now, again, 15 fish resources. That is the whole goal of the game. Nothing else matters. And doing so as quickly as possible. Okay? So, Krasimir asked, can you see the tile on the backside? So there you go. All right? Different resources. There are 3, which means there are 2 huts on there, but there we go. Okay? All right. So our boat is going to start out here. So there's our starting boat. There we go. So I will go ahead and put Put that back up there. We have our 5 money, we have our 1 colonist, and we have our 3 actions. So we skip step 1, which is disengagement. Okay, we'll talk about it when we get there. Step 2, order of play, we just permanently skip. Step 3, population effects. Nothing's going to change because all of these are up here in the top left corner. We don't need to worry about any of that. Balance of the archipelago, so phase 4. So now we need to look at this card. And let me go ahead and I believe that is there. All right. So what this card says is if we had any colonists on land, we would have to lay them all down. And then we would have to discard either from the local market, from the top board, board 1, one exotic fruit, 1 green cube, to stand up and make ready 3 colonists. So for every exotic fruit that we discard, either from the board up here, meaning the one that's there, or here in our supply, we're allowed to stand up 3 colonists. Well, there's no colonists out here, so we can pretty much, that's done. Easy enough on that. Well, in addition to that, there is an export crisis. So this is a domestic crisis, and this is an export crisis. All right? So the export crisis says that you have to discard from the export. Oh, oh God. Did we just lose the game before it even started? That's funny. Huh. Huh. That's it. So, okay. Sorry, I'm thinking in my head, and I should spell this out a little bit. So, the bottom one says that let me get the exact. Make sure here. Looking for what that is. So it shows a resource on there, which this is kind of tricky. So I shuffled the cards before we started the stream, and both crises have to be resolved to preserve the balance of the archipelago. So the lower half of the card indicates the number and type of resource that must be provided to the export market. So as it is, we have to discard. Yeah. So here's a hole in the rules, okay? According to the starter, we have 1 colonist. We have a colonist, but the colonist technically is not on land yet. So I would argue that our population is not at 1 yet. So if that's the case, then for every resource that we cannot or choose not to discard that matches here, rebellion goes up 1 step. Well, I did mention that technically, the moment rebellion is higher than the population, not equal to, but higher. Oh, we put out the fire. Okay, yeah. See, again, the rules don't call this out, but you're right. Hold on. Top 5 cards come out here. You're right. Thank you, Krasimir. Thank you. See, it doesn't say that. So, 1, 2. But if that were the 6th card, then we would have already lost the game. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, fine. All right. So here are the 5 evolution cards. Now, there are different types. As you can see, there are characters. There are wonders, which we don't have any wonders. And then I believe these are progress cards. They're action cards, essentially. Now, wherever the red arrow is, that is going to be the current cost for that card as you see it. Now, On our turn, when we get to phase 6, we must purchase one of these cards. If we cannot purchase one of these cards, then the game is over. In addition to purchasing a card, we must rotate 2 cards. So let's say, for instance, we choose to purchase, say, this card here for 2. Then we must rotate our choice of any of the other 4 cards. And just for argument's sake, let's say we rotated that there, and we rotated that there. So now on subsequent turns, the price has changed for those 2 cards. If we rotate cards, and let's say it were already on this, and we rotate that card, and it ends up over here on a skull and crossbones. That means discard that card and then replace it. So we purchase, rotate 2, and it can be any 2 of the remaining 4 cards. Then we refill any of the spots that are empty, either from rotating or from ones that we had purchased. And then on subsequent turn, it's going to be able to afford us some little rule breaker or special ability throughout the game or on our actions phase. In addition to all of that, the card, as you see it here, I guess technically now that we have filled up the board, now the game will begin. So the population effects phase 3 is done, and then phase 4, actually, hold on, phase 4, we skipped this in turn 1. I misspoke, I forgot. So we just go straight into the actions. But if anything with a red background, you skip until phase 6, and anything here, you will actually do. So my bad. Should have skipped phase 4 to begin with. So my bad, my bad. Yep. All right, so we start with actions. So we have 3 actions, and you know what? I just realized I think it'd probably make more sense to have them over here. All right. All right. So actions. We need fish. So we have a couple of options. We can either go fish, which really is not a great option right now because that would get us a whopping 1 fish. I think the smarter choice would be exploration. So I would argue that I think we should explore as our first action, all right? So let's go ahead and go through the steps for exploration, all right? So now what we need to do is we need to look at this tile that's up here. That tile, water has to go to water, land has to go to land, and mountains have to go to mountains. Common sense stuff. So we do have water accessible to us, and now we have a choice. We can either choose this tile to keep without looking at the backside, and if so, place it down onto the existing, add it to the tableau, right, of tiles. Or we could just take a chance and discard it, and then we're stuck taking the second tile. There we go, okay? So that said, we want fish. Do we take the first? And there might be fish on the backside, we don't know. But at least we can place this tile, we know that. Because it has water on it. I don't know, what do you think? I say we keep the, you know what? No, I'll leave it up to the peanut gallery. Do we keep this tile? And if we decide to keep it, we get to look at the backside then. But if not, we just discard that out of the game and we go to the second tile and we must take the second tile. Basically, we're looking for fish resources, but we also need some land to get our colonists onto land so we have a population of 1. All right. So what should we do? Gooserino says ditch it. I don't know if I trust Gooserino though. No, I'm just messing. He knows that. So we have 1 ditch it, 1 keep it. Yeah, I think we keep it because we know that we're going to be able to keep it. we're going to be able to use it, have a successful exploration, because it has water that touches water and it has land, which we need. So I say we keep it. So I agree. So here's what we passed on. That would have been better, but it's a risk. But the good news is it stays there for an additional exploration. So that's not so bad. So now let's go ahead and look at the other side, because we have a choice. Okay, this would have been bad because there is no water. So we would not be able to place it. But because we get a choice, we can go ahead and place it. So we will. We'll go ahead and place it there. Easy enough. Boom. All right. So first thing is choose which hex, first or second. Done. Okay. Must be adjacent to two others, or if it touches the original one, then we're good to go. So we're good to go. All right. So because it was successful, we get an exploration token. Now, why do exploration tokens matter? And that's because on the flip side, this is a wild resource. So anytime a crisis that has us discarding resources, we could always use this as a discarded resource. So that's a good thing. It's kind of a get out of jail free card. Or whenever we want to construct something, if we have to discard resources like over here, maybe to say build another ship so we can get more fish, that would be good. We can always use that as the wood as it's shown right there. So that's a good thing. So we're going to go ahead and keep the exploration token, but we're going to go ahead and keep it on that side as a reminder for us. Okay? All right. So that is, we get the exploration token. Okay? Now, in addition to that, there we go. All right. Then we choose one. So let's look at this new tile that we just placed. It has 2 cow resources and it has 2 stone resources, as you can see. Now, when we place this tile adjacent, like we did, we choose one of those 4 shown resources, or it could have more, it could have less, but in our case, it's 4 resources. We're going to add that to the domestic market. So we can either choose to place a cow or to place a stone. And to be honest with you, for no real good reason, we're going to go ahead and I'm choosing a stone to place. So what happens? We're going to come up here and look at the domestic market up here, and we're going to add one to the top left available spot. So there we go. Boom, done. We've added a stone to the market. Okay, cool. Then we choose a second resource. Now, this one's been used, so we still have a choice of stone, cow, or cow, right? And this is for us to just take. We get that for exploring it. So that's cool, okay? And then if we look up here, you'll notice that we may, check that, this one will not fire right now during phase 6. But you know what? Also looking at this, being able, stone is good. We're gonna probably need some stone. So yeah, I think we get some stone. So we will choose the second one and we'll go ahead and take a stone. Awesome. Okay. Then, last but not least, we're going to increase the surplus worker track based on the number of huts that are on there. Now, this took me a little bit to figure out, but thankfully there's a player aid that actually spells this out. The huts are really small, okay? They're either round like this or square. However, take the number 5, subtract the number of resources, that's how many huts will be hiding on that tile. So in other words, there's 1 hut. We know that because there are 4 resources. 5 minus 4, there we go. So what does that mean? We're going to add 1 to the surplus workers. So now, if we take the recruit action, we can get another worker or another colonist from our supply to be able to put out here, to be able to get us resources and do other stuff for us. However, that cost is $4. The more workers that are surplus, the cheaper it is. Okay? So, in addition to all of that, whenever you explore, you must have a unengaged and available unit. Now a unit, this is water, a ship is a unit, and it must move on to the next tile. So when that happens, we then, we're going to go ahead and put our colonists out here as well. We're going to stand them up. Now I realize streaming, that's not ideal, but it really does matter whether they are standing or laying down. Standing means good. Laying down, bad. That's rebels. So now we have a population of 1. So let me put that back to the reset. We now have a population of 1. Excellent. Okay? All right, so, okay. We are limited, also I should point out, to 3 meeples per tile. We're good. We only have 1, but just saying. So there we go. 1 action is done. We now can go ahead and do some more actions. Well, we know what that tile is. That's a pretty good tile. But I also want to build. I want to construct. So this is really kind of a tricky situation. This is a good tile. It's not going anywhere. It won't get discarded, so that's good. But I want to construct a boat. Which would require us to discard that resource and a buck. And a boat would allow us... Do we need to harvest resources, right? Because 15 fish. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do for our second action? We could explore again and put this tile out, which is kind of great, and that gets us access to wood. Okay, I talked myself into it. Let's go ahead and do that for our second action. For our second action, we're going to explore again. We can because there are multiple spots available to us. And so, let's go ahead and take a look at the map tile. Hey, that's a perfect tile for us. So, you know what? You know what? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I think we will. Let's go ahead. I need the wood. So we will go ahead and take this tile. We can look at the other side of it as well. It has wood, it has iron, it has exotic fruit. But you know what? We need fish and we need wood. Well, that kind of worked out perfect. So, water matches water, land matches land. Oops, wrong one. How do I keep doing this? I apologize. There we go. So that seems like a good one. So, we must move, and we will go ahead and move onto that tile for... yeah, I think that works. I'm not using the other expansion. There we go. So that's 2 actions. So now we chose, we moved over, we get another exploration token, another wild resource. That's really good. And now, in addition to that, remember, we get to add to the market. So we can add a fish or a wood to the market. And you know what? Let's go ahead and add a fish. And then I say we take a wood as well. So we're going to add a fish to the domestic market. And then for our second action, well, we get to choose one. I say we take a wood because we want to build more ships, right? So there we go. So we have a stone and a wood now, plus 2 wild resources. I'd say this was a awfully successful first turn. There are 4 resource markers on there, so that means there's 1 hut. Let's find the hut, shall we? And the hut is right there. So, 1 more surplus worker. So at $4. Okay? All right, good. Can you count your exploration tokens towards your end game goal? That's actually a really interesting question. Can you? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's only for exchanging, I believe, for whenever there's a crisis or for whenever you're building. So I would argue that no. Okay? All right. All right. So that is 2 actions. Now the third action, I think we construct boats, but now I need to double check. I think whenever you construct, I think you can only do 1, but let me double check on constructing. A ship. Okay, so just checking. So for our third and final action of round 1, okay, is we're going to go ahead and do a little construction, which it will go right there. So construction says requires 1 wood and a buck or a florin. Okay, and I have a active, non-engaged colonist. So active meaning standing up, good. Not engaged meaning I haven't done anything that engages them, be it harvesting resources, be it building something, or using a building. None of those things has that colonist been done, and constructing a ship does not engage them, so that's kind of nice. So we will go ahead and discard our wood. We will discard 1 florin, and our boat will come out into the area, onto the tile, and it's available to be used. Unfortunately, all of our actions have been done, so we're done with that, okay? Okay, so that is all of step 5. And now, evolution card purchase. Okay, so we have to purchase 1 card and rotate 2. So let's take a look and now go over these a little bit more in detail. So they all start in facing us. So these 3 I will talk about first. These, the cost I've already covered in the bottom right. This means anybody can activate it, whether it's you or your opponents. Well, in our case, this is the exact same as a black arrow that is shaped the exact same way, because we don't have opponents. So what that means is that can be activated. When you do so, you do whatever is in the big picture. So in this case, you would pay any other cost. So this one says activate it, i.e. tap it, and pay 3 florins to the bank. Okay? When you do so, add 2 surplus workers to the supply, or remove or lower the rebellion 2 steps. Okay? The sawmill says rotate, spend a buck, and you get double wood. So whatever you would normally harvest, you get double that. So if you would normally harvest, say 2 wood, you would get 4. That's really good given that we need more boats. I like that idea, all right? And now, I said that I thought that the game is piece limited, which means we only have 2 more boats available to us. However, per what this says, is if you run out of units in your color, you may use other colors. So from what I'm gathering on that, we can actually get more ships than the 4. So that's kind of cool. All right, because we have 2 others left over. Okay? All right. So that's what those 3 are. The bishop basically is a cheaper version of peace and prosperity, as you can see, okay? And then the scout. Now the scout says tap it, 3 florins. During exploration, you may perform a second exploration after the first one. Well, that's awfully tasty. Plus, if you notice, the scout gets cheaper as we rotate. Wow. I mean, what I'm thinking here, whereas like the bishop gets more expensive. I think we take the sawmill, we purchase that for 3 florins, we rotate the scout to make it cheaper, and we rotate something else. I mean, I like cheap immigration. That's kind of nice. So I'm thinking we rotate the bishop, rotate the scout, and purchase the sawmill. All right? Yeah, I like that. So we have 4 florins left. We'll go and spend 3. Okay? We will purchase the sawmill, which it immediately goes into our tableau, but we can't use it because you can only use it during the actions phase. We rotate the scout, and because, yeah, I'm good with that. We rotate there. All right. So we have purchased and we have rotated too. I like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. So then what's going to happen is we take the top card from the deck here, flip it over. If there is anything red on these, it happens immediately, as soon as we refill this. But there is nothing red, so we don't need to worry about that right now. So we flip it over, it fills in, and there's no need to like slide and refill. Nah, it doesn't matter, because you notice there is no difference between the spots. A farm works kind of like harvesting the sawmill, but for cows. Okay? So, all right. All right. Okay, fine. Everybody's saying rotate immigration. Fine, fine, fine. There we go. Okay? All right, so that is the evolution card purchase phase. Awesome. So now, phase 1, disengagement. What does disengagement mean? Basically, it resets all of the meeples out here that are engaged. It resets them. Okay, so let me go into that a little bit. Disengage, engage character and progress cards, meaning untap any cards that have been used already. And citizens and ships move off of resource icons so that you can then harvest them again. But as it is, we're not doing that. We don't need to do that. Okay? All right, so disengagement, done. Phase 2, we skip order of play. Phase 3, population effects. So, phase 3, why does it keep losing it? There we go. All right. So phase 3 is everything up here. So you'll notice, add anything, no. Add anything, no. So, hey, we still have 1 population. That doesn't change. Okay. Population effect is done. And now we have to do phase 4, which is balance of the archipelago. This one kind of sucks for us right now. And I'll show you why here in a moment. What's up, Jeroen? All right, so now here's what happens. We lay down all colonists on the map. So if we come over here, so we have 1. So he lays down. What this says is we either have to discard from our personal supply or from the domestic market for every wood that we discard, including the wilds here. We can stand up 5 colonists, regardless whether they're ours or our opponents. It doesn't matter. But so now, what happens if we don't? It becomes a rebel. The black meeple comes over, is tied 1-1. That's not good. Plus, you know, we'd like him to harvest some stuff. So that really kind of sucks for us. Now, we have a choice. We could either discard these, one of those, because obviously that's 5 or less. There's only 1. Or we could just go ahead and discard that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to discard this and stands that up. Whew. Okay, all good. Okay? So now, that's the domestic market, domestic crisis solved. Now we have a export crisis. This says we got to get rid of 2 fish. Come on, man. So, what does that mean? Well, we take a look at the export market. Let's get rid of, oh, there are no cubes there. Well, there's 1, there's 2 fish markers out. Now, those do not go back into the supply here. They're just out of the game spent. Because for every fish marker that we, or fish cube that we don't get rid of, we get 1 rebel. And if we didn't discard those, both of them, or at least one of them, the game would be over. That's bad. That kind of sucked. But that's the randomness of the draw. But that is the balance of the archipelago. And now we go into our actions again, okay? So, we have, oh, these should have reset, by the way, in phase 1. All right. So looking at this, we have 2 ships, but I would like to, you know, get more, and we need money. Okay. Oh boy. Now it gets a little bit trickier, okay? So let's take a look at the actions here. Don't forget that we have the sawmill, but the sawmill will cost us $1 to be able to get 2 wood. Okay, so let's see. So we have to have money to be able to purchase a card. So how do we get money? Well, we can do this one of 2 ways. We can either use an action here as a transaction, meaning we can buy or sell a single cube at either the domestic or the export market. So let's go ahead and take a look up here at the markets. Well, if we were to put a wood out here, that would get us $7. If we were to put it on the domestic, that would get us $4. We need money. Obviously, we need wood first. I'm just trying to plan out our turn, okay? All right? So that is one way, is through the transaction. The other way is if we controlled buildings. Now, we have not really talked about this yet, but you're able to construct these various buildings. And a market or a port will allow you to then, if you control, meaning you have a worker, a meeple, on those buildings, if they've been constructed, so say a market out here, and we had a worker that was on it, then we could come over here to the market and go ahead and buy and sell goods over there. You're allowed, the advantage of doing that is you can buy or sell 2 as opposed to just the 1, okay? Now, oh, thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Don't forget, we also have a stone. So I would prefer to sell the stone. So, you know what? We need money, we need wood, and we need fish. Well, I think I know what we're doing. I think step 1 is going to be, we have to have money. That is a must or the game's going to end. We don't have any markets constructed, and we don't have those resources to construct a market. So therefore, we're going to have to take an action as a transaction there. So that allows us to buy or sell 1 resource, domestic or not. So we take a look at this. I like $5 more than I like 4. So if we sell that, that's going to get us $5. We now have $5 there. Well, technically we have 6. All right. Have a good one, Renee. Ooh, Samuel, I like where your head's at. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a really good idea. Okay, I'm on board with that. Let's do that. Okay. So that is, let me see, that's 4. That leaves me $2. We can buy a card. We're good. Yeah, I like it. All right, I dig it. So now we're going to actually go and recruit. Okay? So we come over here to the board, and you'll see that there are 2 available to be recruited. Awesome. But it costs $4. So we'll go ahead and pay $4 to the bank. There. We drop that down 1 because obviously we're hiring one, so it's not available. Then we come over here, and it must go on a tile where you have a existing worker. That is, let's see, recruiting. Even if you were engaged in an activity, still would. So now we have 2 workers over here. Okay? All right. So that's good. That's 2 actions. Now, oh, that won't work. We can't use the sawmill, though. But it's okay, I think. It does have a flaw. Yeah, but that's okay. I'm not going to use the sawmill this turn. But at least this way, I'm okay with it. Look, I wasn't going to get gold anyways, y'all. So, for our third action, we're going to go ahead and harvest. Okay? So, let's come over here. And we will harvest 1 there, and we will harvest 1 there. Now, notice that it's wood and wood only. I can't harvest wood and fish as the same action. Oh, that's actually interesting. We could have a baby instead, which would get us a 3rd worker. Oh, we could, yeah, see, we could explore. Wow, there's so much to do here. I think I'm less concerned about exploring right now. I want the wood resources, so done, final answer. So that's going to get us 2 wood. I cannot spend the money, the $1 that it would cost here, because then I would only have $1, which means I could not buy a card. So we're going to go ahead and take the 2 wood there. That's all my actions. We now go into the evolution card purchase. There. All right. Well, have to purchase something at $2 or less. Well, that's going to be one of these 2. I like the lowering more rebellion. But only $1 is a whole lot better than only the $3. I think we're going to go ahead and hire purchase the bishop. So that's going to be $2. We get the bishop card over into our tableau over there. And now we need to rotate 2 cards. Well, I don't think we really need to worry about immigration, so that's okay. We can rotate that one. And now that we have, you know what? Actually, let's rotate the scout. Make it as cheap as it gets. So during exploration, you may perform a 2nd exploration after the first one. Now, the interesting thing about this is if we purchase this next turn, doing 2 explorations, if they're successful, gives us 2 of the tiles, which gets us the exploration that much quicker. So, yeah, I'm good with that. So we did the 2 rotations, and now we are going to draw. There is nothing red, so we don't have to worry about that. And we have the false prophet. Oh, by the way, I should also point out, there were a couple of cards that are strictly for other, that include, they're for multiplayer only. I just took them out. I'm fine with that. So, false prophet. Tap it and you can migrate a citizen for each temple you control. Migrate means you can move to an adjacent tile or chain together ships to be able to let them move further, but it's not going to be terribly important for us. I'm okay with that. So that is the end of phase 6. So phase 1, reset these off of there. These come off of there. They're going, and then that's it. Okay? Game lost. Why would the game be lost? What am I missing? Krasimir. What am I missing? Did I miss a step? Oh, crap. Okay. Well, it's going to be a quick stream today. All right. So, I see it now. All right. So, you guys are a little quicker than I am on this. So, disengagement, done. Skip 2. Population effects. Okay. So, what do we have? Wow, this is going to be a really quick stream today, but that's okay. All right, so the first thing is we lay down all our workers. So let's lay down, or colonists, whatever. So we lay down 2 of them. Okay, cool, no problem. Well, now discard 1 wood from the import, or I'm sorry, from the local or from our supply, and we can stand up to 6. So we'll discard 1 of these. Good. Stand up. Boom, boom. Good. Awesome. All right, we're going, and discard 3. Discard 3 pineapples, 3 exotic fruits. So, well, there's 1. Sorry, from the export. There are none. And I have none. Now, a moment. Yeah, no, that's it. So, what happens? For everyone that you can't discard, and the moment that that is higher than that, game's over. So, there it is. No. All right. So yeah, the game's over. We lost. Now, I could run it back. It's been an hour. I could. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. Oh. It should have been at 2. You're right. I apologize. I forgot to move that. Whenever you have the population, that should be at 2. You're right. So it's there, but still not enough. So real quick. All right. Let's see. Gooserino says, seems like that can creep up too easily. What's the play there? Don't buy cards while you still have achievable crisis. You must buy a card every turn. Must. And in fact, during phase 6, you must purchase a card and rotate 2 cards. Okay? So there's that. So, War of Independence, our Archipelago, good news, is free. Bad news, we lost. That feels dark, doesn't it? Ooh. Yeah. And actually Spinners actually brings up a good point. And let me give an example here. Okay, let me kind of talk our way through it. Had for the third action been, instead of getting resources, had we actually bred? What is breeding? have 2 meeples on the same tile, hey, guess what? You get a third automatically, like that. It obviously takes a action to be able to do that right here, okay? And you can only do that once per round, but you're allowed a max of 3. Then our population would have been at 3, and then when we discard the 3 pineapples, we would have been tied, rebellion, but that's not more than, so therefore the game would have continued. That's the joy of solo games. And that is one of the gripes about the short scenarios, is that they can be really luck dependent, based on a draw, especially early, stuff like that. But I'm okay with that. This game is the anti-Spirit Island. Yeah, right? Exactly. And yeah, had I bred, that would have saved us. So, my lack of breeding, I apologize. Which is oddly thematic in a sense that I don't have any kids. So, my bad. My bad. But yeah, we wouldn't have had the wood. Yeah, but there you go. Now, that said, I imagine Randall's waited this long. He doesn't mind waiting another week. So if y'all want, we can run this back next week. I'm not going to do it right now, but we can run it back next week. And I'll bust out one of the medium scenarios. The long ones, having not played them, I think we'll do one of the medium scenarios next time. Exactly. And losing's not a bad experience. It's a learning curve. I think that's a fair statement. Right. All right. So, see, Randall, am I right? I mean, what's another week at this point, right? Yeah, and Samuel, early game's always difficult in the first few rounds until you get the market stocked to deal with crisis issues. Right. So, you know what? Didn't work out this time. That's okay. We can do it next time. And Spinner says, game has a really high strategy curve because you have so many options. Exactly, right? Look at all the things that I could have done here. We could have bred. We did. I could have not built a ship earlier. Like, there are a lot of different options. And we really didn't even see, I mean, we saw harvests. We saw construction. We saw a market. We didn't migrate. We did explore, we didn't tax, we didn't have babies, although that's pretty simple. So yeah, so there's plenty left here to explore. There we go. And Joshua, see, he says you're right. You weren't going to win in 4 turns. Nailed it. There you go. And Krasimir, medium is long, and long is extremely long, and I know. So long is good. I'm all right with that. All right. Yeah, so there you go. So next week, how about, you know what? What is today? Tuesday? Next Tuesday. Do the same thing. Same bat time, same bat channel. And we're just going to hit the ground running. It's just going to be boom, medium scenario. Let's go. You know what I will do also, real quick, is let's do this. So let's move that out of the way. Peanut Gallery, here's your option. I've heard this is pretty insane, so please don't pick this one. That just feels not good, so maybe not that one either, but Christopher Columbus, you got to go through all 24 exploration tokens. That's going to be a really big board. Let's move those out of the way. Bring that out just a hair. Now, we're not going to make this decision right now, mind you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it up to y'all to choose which scenario you want to bust out for next week. Okay? These are all the medium solo scenarios right there. Okay? Have a good one, Yura. Okay? Yeah, I need to update the security token, Joshua. That's all that is. It's fine. Go to patreon.com/heavy cardboard and you're fine. All right. So, there we go. Is that really 50 settlers? 50? Let's not choose that one either. Okay, there you go. All right. So let's see. The trigger is 6 turns. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. So after you've bought 6 of these, having greater than 18 exploration tokens. That's kind of interesting. Okay. 7. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, it does. So that's why I said maybe we don't choose that one. But anyway, so go ahead and comment down below after the stream ends. Leave your comments and feel free to also chime in over in the Slack channel if you're a patron. And we'll do that. We'll run it back Tuesday, 3 p.m. next week. So help me choose that, and there you go. All right. So thanks, everybody. That was way shorter than anticipated, but moral of the story, breed more. My bad. My bad. So if y'all enjoyed it, give it a thumb down below, subscribe, patreon.com/heavy cardboard. That way you don't get the little warning, or you can go to pledgehc.com. Get the security warning. Everything's fine. It's just a certificate. It needs to get renewed. And support the show there. There you go. That's it. All right. So tomorrow night, Power Grid, Australia, 4-player. Yeah, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be mean, going to be ugly. And then on, I believe it's Thursday, we're doing Kanban EV solo as well. And then we have Dawn on Titan this weekend. So full week still to go. So there you go. Thanks everybody for watching. Certainly appreciate it. Wear your mask, social distance, be kind to one another. I'll see you all tomorrow, 7 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. Bye. Wow, that was quick. That was shockingly quick. Was not expecting that. My bad.